Hey guys, Dark Skeleton here, and the other day I had the privilege of playing with one of my subscribers, Cold, to test out some of my decks and actually showcase it for you guys. So we went through a bunch of the decks I've been recently playing, starting with the Mill Druid, that I'm actually currently playing in Ranked. Now, as with all my other decks, my Mill Druid is a little bit different than the standard meta. I actually have a much more minion-focused Mill Druid that has a lot of these tech minions. You see my entire hand is actually tech minions right now. The Cold Light Oracle, which is staple. Mind Control Tech, which two are in the deck for dealing with enemies that just put too much pressure on me, have too much tempo. A Recombinator for turning my 5/5 Ancient of Lore into Antonidas, or that's the theory at least. It did happen once, that means it's reliable. And then I have two Youthful Brewmasters, which I'm a big fan of. Allows you to get whatever tech minion you want back to your hand. So if you need another BGH, you can play that. If you need another Mind Control on the fly, you can do that. And it's just a very versatile card. Speaking of BGH, my deck actually has two of them. So combined with the Youthful Brewmaster, I can theoretically take out 4 7+ attack minions. As you can imagine, when you combine that with the double Naturalize, my deck is very good against Control Warriors and also handlocks, which there's quite a few of around my rank, which is, depending on the time, somewhere between 10 and 15. So two interesting things you should know about my Druid deck is that A, it has no taunts, that means I have no Druids of the Claw in here, and secondly, it has no minions over 7 attack, or equal to or over 7 attack rather, which means it's immune to enemy BGHs. Now, if you saw the Druid Mill meta that was running around rank 15 for a while about a month ago, you know that deck runs Tree of Life, it runs Mulorn, it's very, very stally, it has all the healing in the world. My deck is not a healing deck to that extent at least. It does have 2 anti-Keelbots and an Earthen Ring Farseer, but no healing touches, no Trees of Life, none of that garbage. It's much more about just controlling your opponent's tempo here rather than just trying to survive with healing. And as a result of that, I think my deck does a better job of dealing with aggro just because your opponent's board will be able to be taken out, whereas a healing stall Mill Druid would just try to survive forever using healing. But the thing about aggro decks is that as you mill them into more cards and you don't deal with their board, they're just eventually going to overwhelm you, even if you do have cards like Tree of Life to heal for 30. So as for Cold, you may notice a lot of his Druid minions have 1 attack. He's actually playing a Hobgoblin deck, which I think was really cool. In that no one really tries to run Hobgoblin. I always thought it was an amazing card. If I had them, I probably would run them, but you know, there are a lot of epics, especially legendaries, that I don't have yet for GVG. But the whole idea of Hobgoblin is you play a bunch of 1 attack minions and then you try to buff it up with the Hobgoblin, giving you 1 attack minions +2/+2. The thing was, I was really controlling his board the entire time. I know what a Druid can do once they have a big board, although usually it's Savage Roar, not Hobgoblin. Still, you gotta deal with the Druid's board in the same way you gotta deal with a Shaman's board. So by the end of the match, I was actually able to get off my Ysera and keep it on the field. Then of course I have a Faceless Manipulator, so yeah, double golden Ysera, that's pretty good. I use Ysera because it is a card that will get you more cards, it's kind of tough to deal with. Even if you're like a Control Warrior, you usually at least have to use something to hit it and then execute it. With a deck that can play this slowly, Ysera can be good. I wish I could play Ysera in more decks. The problem is, though, that in most decks, if you play Ysera, you're just gonna die. It takes a deck that is really, really slow and defensive to play Ysera effectively. And that's why you pretty much exclusively see it in things like Control Warrior or Control Priest. Now what I'm doing here with the Recombinator is not a real play, it was just I wanted to get Malygos out on the field so that I could go for the Uber swipe. Unfortunately, all I got was a Cenarius. Now, it's not only that Ysera is good for card advantage, but also she has the Dream card, which is basically bounce one of your dudes back to the hand, or bounce one of your enemy's dudes back to the hand, which is probably the better use for it. But what I was trying to go here was play a minion and then double innervate out Cenarius, but I miscounted, I was off by 1 mana. So yeah, that happened. I'm actually considering putting Cenarius into this deck. I don't think it would be a bad choice if I could ever get board tempo. The only thing is, I don't really want to have the taunts in the deck because that does break the Black Knight meta. That said, even if an enemy Black Knight kills a 2/2 taunt that was created by Cenarius, it wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world. So now we move into the end of the game, and this turn really just shows you how brutal this deck can be. The goal isn't necessarily to make your opponent draw out of cards completely, although that does work, and that did basically happen here, but it's also just that I need to be able to break your spirit. I'm going to clear everything you have, and if your deck ever runs out of momentum, or I just have so much tempo on you that I can just crush you, then yeah, it's basically the end of the game. It's over. The average male Druid would probably have a bunch of cards in the hand for healing at this point, but mine actually has a bunch of cards which are very reasonable responses and threats that I can put on the board. So thank you guys for watching. I'll put up the other games in future videos. I've been Dark Skeleton. If you want to leave a comment down below, go ahead, or you can reach me at Twitter at @subdarkskeleton. And I will see you all next time.